Here on Metropolitan Television. Our import is proudly brought to you by the Ghana Revenue Authority, Goil Company Limited, Serene Insurance, Ghana Link Network Services, and Meridian Port Services MPS. The show is proudly powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, GPHA. This show this afternoon is streaming live on our social media pages. On Facebook, we are streaming live at Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. Still on Facebook, we are streaming live at Port of Tema. And on YouTube, we are live at Ion Port. Our media partner on this journey of a lifetime is the Business and Financial Times, the BNFT. And so if you want to have a grasp of all that transpired on the show tonight, make a date and grab the Thursday edition of the BNFT, and you'll be able to see all that happened here on the show tonight. As usual, we'll be getting interactive with you, and all you have to do is send us your messages and comments via our dedicated WhatsApp line, which is 0559019177, 0559019177. At the appropriate time, we shall share that with the rest of the world. Indeed, when the time is ripe, I will pick signals from my production team and we shall activate the phone lines for you to call in and contribute to the discussion. My name is Kennedy Mona. We are going for a quick break. When we bounce back, we'll continue with the show. Please do stay with us.
Every now and again, Goil makes good things happen. This time, Goil has introduced Super XP Ron 95, a higher grade fuel loaded with additives and yet sold at the same price as normal fuel. Goil Super XP Ron 95 enhances engine performance like never before. It maintains the engine by keeping it clean from carbon deposits. Goil Super XP Ron 95 is designed to burn slowly and thus improves fuel economy, making you save money after several kilometers. Goil Super XP Ron 95 gives you a smooth driving experience, that is, less vibrations. Fill up with Goil Super XP Ron 95. Now there's no need to pay more for any higher grade fuel. Goil has that sorted. Goil, good energy.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Yeah. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is. You still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
Impressive factory. If only I had listened to you, I wouldn't have been in this mess. That devastating fire virtually wiped out the whole factory and my warehouse.
Remember my misfortunes last year? Serene Insurance Asset All Risk Fire policy that I took were there to pay for my damaged stocks in the warehouse. And my machines that were affected by the floods have been replaced. My accident vehicle is back on the road thanks to Serene Insurance Motor Policy. Currently, my goods are on the high seas, covered with their marine cargo insurance policy. I was just telling Ajima about Serene Insurance.
Oh, Ajima,
tell him more.
As a road contractor, I make sure I do my contractors all risk insurance for the projects and then workers' compensation for all the workers on site. With Serene Insurance, they will make sure they will cover your unknown tomorrow today.
Serene Insurance, a new face of insurance. Call us now.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
All right, so you're welcome back. It's now time for us to take a look at happenings in the port and shipping industry in the course of the week. And in the course of the week, the Ghana Maritime Authority, in collaboration with the Volta River Authority, took some media personnel to the Pong area where they were treated to a showcase of the works of some skimmers, which are supposed to help remove aquatic weeds in the Pong area. Plus the fact that in the course of the week, the Customs Brokers Association of Ghana, CUBAG, also held its 2022 edition of the Directors' Conference. We bring you these stories and more. Please take a look.
The Volta River Authority has received 2 trash skimmer vessels from the Ghana Maritime Authority to facilitate the removal of aquatic weeds at the head pond of the Pong Dam. The Director of Environment and Sustainable Development at the VRA, Ben Ahinsaki, speaking after a media tour to observe the machines in operations on the head pond of the Pong Generating Station, commended GMA for the gesture. He said the authority was mandated to generate hydropower from the Volta River and also help mitigate the impact of its operations on the environment and any incidental situation on communities within the area.
One of our challenges is that these weeds that they are floating and sometimes they can break. And when they break, they move towards the Pong head pond. That's the Akuse Dam. And we may have to shut down the turbines to clear them. So these weeds are critical. And we as a company have a program of managing the weeds, specifically from the shoreline where the communities are and also on the main water body.
He said, since the appearance of aquatic weeds on the Volta River, VRA had implemented several actions to ensure their management and control, including mechanical control, chemical control, biological control, and manual weed harvesting to stem the tide. The acquisition of the vessels, the Director in charge of inspections and survey at GMA, Captain William Thompson, expressed satisfaction about the collaboration to ensure that water bodies were free from filth. He said, prior to the tour, the 2 authorities signed a memorandum of understanding to hand over the vessels to aid in the efficient removal of the weeds from the river.
The estimates over the period of time has been quite huge. The cost of having to stop the dam operating because of weeds and that kind of thing has been quite huge. So this is honestly a very huge saving on the operations of VRA, and we hope that the cooperation between GMA and VRA will continue.
The Customs Brokers Association of Ghana, CUBAG, has held its Directors' Conference for the year 2022 in Tema. The Directors' Conference is an annual event held by the association to discuss pertinent and relevant issues pertaining to the growth of members, their companies, and the industry at large. The program, which was under the theme Awakening the Sleeping Giant, was attended by directors of companies of the association from all over the country. Issues discussed at the Directors' Conference included tax compliance, implementation of the second phase of the Integrated Customs Management System (ICOMS), and marine cargo insurance, among other issues aimed at improving maritime trade in the country. The Principal Revenue Officer in charge of policy and programs at the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Smile Agbemenu, said the implementation of the second phase of ICOMS has been largely successful.
Just as you have mentioned, we have deployed e-auction, refund, reschedule, advanced passenger information system. There are quite a number of modules that have been deployed. In fact, the second phase is almost completed. Most of the things that are being done now is some form of system enhancement and some improvement. And we started deploying second phase virtually almost at the start of 2021. But there are quite a number of modules and improvement that we needed to do so as to improve compliance and also to be able to simplify more the processes and be able to maximize revenue collection,
The acting president of CUBAG, Nana Fedua Jimayoforiata, said the association will continue to act professionally in all its dealings.
We are in a business that is very dynamic. Some of the things we used to know that we claim expertise over in years past are no longer relevant, and there are new things. We realize that there's no particular institute dedicated to this course. So we decided, no, it's about time we put up something that would help our people, especially the field officers, so that when they go to the field, they are not found wanted, to help them become more proficient on the field.
creation and establishment of this building would be realized in totality to the glory of his name. May he grant them the... All right, so you're welcome back. It's now time for us to take our phrase or word of the day. Remember, the word or phrase of the day is brought to you so that we can bring you up to speed with the terminologies and jargons in the shipping industry. Today's word is supply chain. Supply.
Supply chain, a logistics management system that integrates the sequence of activities from delivery of raw glossary of port and shipping terms 373 glossary materials to the manufacturer through to the delivery of the finished product to the customer in measurable components.
All right, so welcome back. We are zooming into our discussion proper tonight. And remember, today's edition of the show is brought to you a bit earlier because of the finals of the World Cup 2022, which will be at 7 p.m., we understand. And the finals is going to be between Argentina and indeed the other... I understand it's 3 p.m. between Argentina and France. And so that's how come we've had to shift our time to 1 p.m. today. Once again, welcome. We're now zooming into our discussion proper tonight. And tonight we're taking a look at the statement delivered by the Finance Minister in Parliament as a government's economic statement and policy. Indeed, that's the 2023 budget, so to speak. And during that presentation, he made mention of the fact that government was considering taking an amendment on the Customs Regulations 2016, that's LI 2248. And if you take a look at that one, particularly, it has to do with the freight forwarding industry. And if that is done, it means that we would have self-declarants. And self-declarants means that anybody can sit down, import goods, and then go to the port and then go and clear without recourse to the customs house agents or freight forwarders. And so when this issue came up, one organization that is quite a watchdog in this particular industry, in the maritime industry, is a Center for International Maritime Affairs Ghana, CUBAG. They issued an article authored by the Executive Director, Albert Fiatui, making a lot of arguments, advancing a lot of arguments as to why this was not good and shouldn't be allowed to happen, and the kind of attendant job losses it will bring if it is allowed to happen. And then just recently, like you saw in the story, the Customs Brokers Association of Ghana also held their 2022 edition of the Directors' Conference, during which they also trumpeted the need for government to withhold that particular policy and not attempt to roll it out. And they indicated fiercely that they would resist it if government tried to bring it about. And so this afternoon, we have in the studios the Executive Director of CUBAG, Mr. Albert Derek Fiatui. Welcome, sir. Absolutely. And we also have in the studios the acting president of the Customs Brokers Association of Ghana. Indeed, he's also the chairman of the Interim National Executive Committee of CUBAG. And he's also the executive secretary of the group.
Committee of Freight Forwarders.
Committee of Freight Forwarders, yes. Yeah, the freight forwarder bodies, organizations in this country. He's Nana Fredo Ajumai Ufriata. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes. So let me begin with you, Mr. Fiatui, and find out from what your initial reaction has been since the announcement was made. Your mic is off, if you can switch it on. Yeah, sure. Yes.
Right. Thank you very much. Let me say that it's good to be here again.
Right.
And I will take the opportunity to...
We are happy to have you.
Thank you very much. to extend regards to our viewers and listeners. And also the hard-working team at CUBAG.
Right.
The directors, the board, the fellows, interns, and all the other people who make things happen.
Yes.
I sit in front, but the work is done by a lot of people behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I express my appreciation to all of them. Back to the issue. I would say that when we got wind of this information as captured in the budget,
yes,
our initial reaction was that it might be some mistake. So we tried to make some contacts.
Right.
After establishing some contacts, we realized that it is something that was captured.
Okay.
Yes. And we feel that it may be born out of some misinformation, or maybe some people advising the ministry or the policymakers wrongly.
Right.
Because this is an issue that is existentially a threat to professionals.
Yes.
You know, in Ghana, we say that we call custom house agents clearing agents loosely.
Yes.
And I think because of that, a lot of people disregard the profession. But really, this is a profession that is very technical and procedural. By virtue of the fact that I work as an advocate in the industry, I understand exactly what goes into customs brokerage.
Yes.
So I do not understand how we will want to just get rid of a profession entirely. I think we have to take a second look at it.
Right.
Because this is not a profession that is done only in Ghana. In fact, when the issue came out, I made contacts with some colleagues in America and in Britain, where this profession also, takes place. And they are surprised that the whole country will decide that a profession will just be wiped out, and tangible reasons have not been given yet. So in our statement, we are asking for clarifications. We are asking for the rationale behind it. Maybe there is something we don't know, so that we can really understand why government is taking that decision. Of course, we cannot impose anything on government. We lobby, we negotiate, we conduct research, and put out the information there. So, well, we will appreciate it if they come up with exactly why this thing is coming up, what they seek to achieve, benefits, whatever, we don't know. We need to know.
In your article, you indicated that the directive or the announcement was conflicting.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Well, we mentioned that it's conflicting because we already have self-declaration as a hybrid part of our system or operations. There are companies that are already self-declarants. So if we say that now we want to let importers operate without recourse to custom house agents, it's conflicting. It doesn't really put out what they want to say. So that is why we say that it's conflicting.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me come to Mr. Foriata and find out from you what your initial reaction was when you heard the announcement by the Honorable Finance Minister that there was going to be an amendment. There was a proposal for the amendment of the Customs Regulations 2016 LI 2248.
Thank you once again. And let me say, I bring you felicitations for my people, the Customs Brokers Association Ghana. We are not perturbed, even though we know this will not see the light of day. Because,
are you sure about that?
Oh, because from the engagements we have made behind the scenes, it looks like this whole thing is born out of, like he said, misinformation.
Okay.
Because you would wonder why a government which is struggling, a country whose economy is struggling, would want to wipe out a profession that employs thousands of people. And in a country where we are almost import-driven, I'm allowed to say that, close to 80% of everything you find in this country comes from somewhere else. And the key stakeholders, those who are in the middle of all of this, you decide that you dilute their work to the extent you're almost saying that you amend it to allow just anybody to clear. I mean, when we saw this, we just thought it was a mistake. Then after making the contacts, we realized that no, it wasn't a mistake. But they were actually trying to hide it under the benchmark. Because the first line of that paragraph was talking about a benchmark. And for a very crucial thing like that, if you want to take it off, do you hide it in a paragraph with another thing? What other things are more important in there?
Right.
Well, all our revenue comes from indirect taxes, majority. And the people who are bringing it, the GRA are directly under the Ministry of Finance. So they have all the information concerning the importance of the freight forwarding business. So you'd wonder why this will find its way in a budget that's coming from the Finance Ministry. Actually, we work under 3 ministries. That's transport. Trade and finance. So what we did initially was to seek for information because we thought there was something wrong. So we have written under the Committee of Freight Forwarder Association, CUBAG, where I happen to be the Executive Secretary. We have written to 3 major select committees of Parliament. The first one is the Trade, Industry and Tourism, headed by Carlos.
Honorable
Carlos
happens to be one of us. He's a freight forwarder to the core. We have also written to the, roads, transport, and rail development is another select committee. Yes, we're also seeking for the same clarification. And then the select committee on finance itself. And we don't seem to get any clear signal as to why this is there. They themselves, they are waiting for the finance ministry to come and
explain further.
Elucidate them
to come with what further and better particulars.
Further and better particulars that we say in this country. So we think, I think is born out of misinformation. This country, we don't seem to be learning. Because a lot of the things that happen to go wrong are the things where you realize that there's very little consultation. We are in an era where there's supposed to be some debt restructuring and things like that. And all the key players make, public statements and say, we are opposed to. We have not been consulted. We are opposed to it. We have not been consulted. At best, we heard that they say they'll be consulting us. In our case, there hasn't been not even a courtesy call saying that, government intends doing anything like this. So it tells you how much the government doesn't value the, indigenous professionals and trades as important as this. It's a misplaced issue, if you ask me. But we've written asking first for clarification. Then beyond that, we'll find out the rationale behind it, and then we'll advise ourselves. Yes.
All right. So I'll pose that question to Mr. Fiatui too, but let me come to you first and find out what you think the possible repercussions or consequences of this particular, policy is, if indeed it is carried out.
First, there will be chaos at the port. Secondly, there will be legal issues. People will go to court because the LI they are seeking to amend, LI 2248, the parent law is the Act 891. That's the Customs Act. In Section 43 of that law, our business is a reserved business. It is supposed to be done by wholly owned Ghanaian companies. The CHA, or the Customs House agent, is registered to be a wholly owned Ghanaian business. So if you amend the Act, the LI, the legislative instrument, to allow just anybody who imports into Ghana to be able to clear, the first thing I'll ask you that, so there are Ghanaians who live outside of Ghana, who comes in once in a while with their stuff. They probably know nothing. What would they do? There are also foreigners who live in Ghana, who travel out and comes in, or even they are here and they've imported stuff. The law says it's a wholly owned Ghanaian area. So if a foreigner, which by virtue of the new Ghana card has a Ghanaian card, the version for foreigners, can he be also be able to go and clear? Is it not infringing on the law? So you see, there are a lot of things that they're having. We've actually spoken to even, there's another committee, they call subsidiary legislation in Parliament. We've spoken to all of the people we need to speak to. And they are at the laws. They say, we are waiting for the people who brought this in to look up. So maybe the lines have been drawn, unless, of course, it's a mistake. Then the battle lines have been drawn. We are waiting patiently for official responses.
When you say there will be chaos at the ports, what do you mean?
Because here is a case that even, freight forwarders who have not been to the port, let's say in the last 6 months, they struggle to go and clear. Those who call themselves freight forwarders, who have the professional certificates, what we call the proficiency certificates, and have gone on to attain the licenses. They struggle because it's a very dynamic area.
And a technical area, like you said.
And a technical area, procedurally. Things keep changing. So even they struggle. I'm wondering what an importer will do if he shows up at the port and says he has to go and clear his own goods. There will be chaos. Secondly, you can't imagine that there are companies in Tema which employ at least 2,000 people. So if all of a sudden, when this thing comes in effect, there will be no such business. They have to find somewhere in the value chain to probably pitch themselves. So they will lay off their people. What would these people do? Where we are doing debt restructuring and we think we should be looking at ingenious ways to raise more revenue, you want to actually cut off a very vital part, where close to 80% of our revenue comes from importation, import duties. It's rather the low-hanging fruits, and you want to do away with that? Another issue that will arise when it goes apart from the attendant job losses, revenue will dip I will challenge customs to market anywhere. That within 6 months, if they even dare implement it, it won't last 6 months. They will withdraw it. Yes, because we doing professional job. We are even hearing issues about losses, revenue losses, which have not been substantiated. Yeah. This whole thing, it's born out of something that we know is being sponsored by a certain group. But
are you not speculating at this juncture?
You can call it speculation, but you see, we have looked at the TFA agreement, the Trade Facilitation Agreement, yes, and the issues about end-to-end. And end-to-end means, for instance, if you're able to load a container or you get a shipping agent to put your stuff on a certain carrier to Ghana, that carrier or the people who are taking care of the shipment should be able to make sure they deliver the goods to your doorstep. And this can only happen in certain parts of the world. Like trying to bring robots to do certain jobs. It can happen elsewhere. The same companies, for instance, let's say a Toyota, if they decide to set up a company in Ghana, they won't bring the kind of robots they use there to assemble the things because the situation here is different. The environment is different. So if there is an end-to-end, we know of a certain country called India that stood against the end-to-end implementation from the onset, for which they are almost like staggering it. And most of the things under WTO, they will say they would want to build capacity for countries who don't have the capacity and things like that. So it has stagnated. We signed the WTO TFA agreement somewhere, I think in 2016 or 2018, thereabout. And these are some of the things that it would do. Instead of people who go to negotiate on behalf of government, talk about these things really, and then see how it will suit their local thing. We just, I don't know, for whatever interest, we sign things like that. So we've known of this thing, it's been lingering in the past. So it's not like it's misplaced.
Right.
Along the line, customs came with something they call categorization, something about categorization. And we asked a few questions, and it looks like the project is almost stillborn.
Comatose, okay.
Yes, it's comatose, if you can use that word. So they've been trying things. So we don't even, we are not sure, but we know there are some people behind it. That's what I'm saying. So you might call it speculation. But, coming events cast their shadows. So we are waiting patiently.
Okay. Let me find out from you, Mr. Fiatri. You heard some of the things that he mentioned, that possible repercussions or consequences if government should go ahead or with this particular announcement to amend the customs regulations. On your side, what do you think are some of the issues that may come up if it happens?
Right. Let me say that in addition to the brilliant points that my brother has raised, I would say that one key lesson that America has learnt, which the world should copy from the 9/11 attack, is to secure their borders and their ports.
Right.
And so the Custom House Agency or the freight forwarding system in America is very, very tight.
Right.
I want to believe that it is the reason why the proponents of our law decided that this business be reserved for locals.
For indigents, yeah.
Because that is what happens in America. Because our own people serve as a first point of call in terms of security.
Right.
For the things that are important to the country.
Right.
So, for instance, if you bring a cargo to the port and then a foreigner will have to go and help the officers to conduct examination. In any situation where that person is able to hide anything which poses a threat to the country, are we not doomed? The Customs House agent is a security personnel. That is why they are allowed to work with the customs officers and the other security agencies.
Right.
So this cannot be taken lightly. It's a breach of the law. It's a threat to our nation. And we have to wake up and smell the coffee. We don't have to allow few people who have parochial interests to mislead us into doing things that we'll regret later. So I think that point must be made forcefully. Again, my brother mentioned the issue of jobs.
Yes.
We all know that in Ghana, there are no jobs. IMF is coming, and there's a freeze on employment. Like he said, this industry has employed a lot of people. And they also, it's a chain, it's a supply chain.
Yeah.
So it's not just the custom broker who is working in the port. There are a lot of people, transporters, gangs and other people involved.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's going to affect the economy a lot. And I was telling somebody yesterday that if for nothing at all, we should be learning from what we did to our banks. If that has worked, we are all seeing what is happening in the economy now. Of course, things happen and you learn from it. So I think that our policymakers will have to take their time to look at issues holistically, assess them properly before they bring them to the fore for discussions.
Right.
And I'm sure if this issue, like you mentioned, was brought out for stakeholder engagement, organizations like ours, who are into research, would have gone deep down there and come out with things that we think will be best for the country. So going forward, we will ask policymakers to, just consult. They should open the space for discussions,
right,
so that we can get it right. We are all fighting for the interests of the country because it's all we have.
Absolutely.
Right.
All right. Now, in your you allege that you allege of a clear security breach and a violation of the Customs Act, as 70% of those engaged in the business of importation are foreign businessmen and women.
Yes.
How did you arrive at this conclusion?
Ghana is an import-dependent economy.
Yes.
We have the GUTA and other associations and private people importing. And when you look at it holistically, the greater number of people who import into a country are the foreign businessmen, the Chinese, the Lebanese, and the other nationals. And that makes the 70%. So we spoke about the breach of the law because Section 43 of the Act, like he mentioned, leaves the job for locals.
Yes.
So it's going to be a breach if the foreigners are allowed into the space. Because I don't know how the airline is going to be amended and then the parent act will be left.
In the same.
Yes. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
If I can use that.
Yes.
Yes. So that is what we mean by that. Yes.
I want to find out from you, Nana Oforiatta, how critical would you say your role as freight forwarders or clearing agents or customs house agents is, to the extent that if others are made to come in, it will kind of like threaten you seriously. I reckon that in his earlier submission and even your submission, you made mention of the fact that there's an industry that's quite technical in nature and procedural. You need to abreast yourself almost all the time on tenets and rules of international trade and all that, so that you can be able to employ some fluidity in your operations. Tell us how critical or crucial your role is as freight forwarders.
This business of freight forwarding, all kinds of regimes have tried to give it a bad name, probably because they want to hang it. The one thing that I learned of when I first started operating in this space was they say the Committee 2 under the tree stamping agents. This tells you that there's something, not every human, endeavor, there are bad notes, a few bad notes, of course. And those are the ones that they always use as to trumpet that freight forwarders are not doing a good job, they are bad. But the people who say the same things also come to report to the country annually that we've been able to meet our targets. We've been able to sometimes exceed our targets. I'm talking about the Ghana Revenue Authority. And if customs or GRA will meet its target, then the freight forwarder is doing something good. Because customs officers don't collect duty. It is the freight forwarder that collects the duty from the importer and pays it in. It's the freight forwarder that does the assessment and all the things that has to do with the tax rates of whatever good they are bringing into the country. And worst of it all, we don't even get anything for that job we do. But for the licensing, because it's a security area that we do, we are private entities. We employ our own people, we pay taxes. Everything we do is we are on own as private people. But the state, like in tax collection, the tax collectors get something for going to collect the tax. We collect the revenue and pay them into the government accounts, but we don't get anything for it. Yet they want to use a few bad notes that are under the tree, stamping and whatnot. But they gloss over the critical nature of our job. The chaos will arise because even there's something we call short collection in our parlance. where a certain, PCA or post-clearance audit will reveal a certain that, okay, you should have used a certain tax rate and you used another one. So there's a difference. When such things occur, they come to the customs house agent because that's the only way they can find the importer. In this country where our addressing systems are porous, what would happen if the importer is clearing for himself?
Yes.
Because it's the freight forwarder that the government will come back to, customs will come back to annually when you want to renew your license and say you have had this number of short collections. You have to find a way to resolve them before your license is renewed.
Right.
So if you take out the freight forwarder, where would you go when there's short collection? Because it's a very key issue. Another one is when even an importer brings in any contraband, whether it be it a drug or be it weapons or whatever concealed in their goods, the first port of call is the freight forwarder. Immediately the agents on the job are arrested, detained, even before they look for whoever. Sometimes there's something called notified party.
Yes.
Sometimes you are not the consignee, you are just being notified on the BL. But they will come and hold you first because you are the agent. And if we look at the law of agency, rightfully, when they get you, they know they will find your principal. So if you take out the freight forwarder or the customs house agent, what happens when these things occur?
Yes.
Another area is, tax evasion. When there's any tax evasion on the part of an importer, for instance, they undervalue, they underquote or anything, and then I won't use the word ship easily, but they find a way to give you an invoice that you think is authentic. A tested invoice and all, and you finish clearing. And later, PCA finds out that there's been a certain evasion, and it still comes out to the freight forwarder. I've had several of my members' companies being, blacklisted or blocked because a certain importer brought in something that there's a short collection, there's some tax evasion. And then the freight forwarder has to find money to either pay or go search with his own investigators to go and apprehend whoever the importer is and bring the person to book. So if you take the freight forwarder out, what will happen to all of these things? It's not well thought through. That's what we think. It's not well thought through. There are also businesses in Ghana that are in the business of doing what we call transfer pricing, wherein they bring in stuff. The biggest corporates are the mining concerns.
Yes.
They bring in stuff. We clear even mobile phones as part of their things back in it. And they are quoting £6,000 for a mobile phone. They bring in certain phone. They say this is a data phone. And it's way overpriced. It is the freight forwarder that reports these things to government. We report these things to Minerals Commission. And all the other agents say, look, these people, we should look at their books. A lot of these calls is falling on deaf ears. The authorities don't act.
They don't.
And we are bleeding because these people would have to deduct all of these overheads before they declare profit. That's why all our minerals we mine here, we get paltry, whatever returns for it. Because they overprice a lot of the things and then they transfer the money back. In the name of they are paying because they bought on credit. And it's the freight forwarder stands in the gap for government and the custom house agency. So if you take us out of all of these major issues, we go dead.
Right.
Government is busily looking for money, how to increase tax, payers and all of that. We've forever talked about cabals here. We've always talked about when you hear something called foreign direct investment, then I'm alarmed. Because here's a company that comes to Ghana, goes through GIPC or wherever they comes through, and they say we are investing in Ghana. And then if they are coming to invest $1 billion, they will end up getting about $850 million as tax exemption. What kind of system is this? So in effect, how much money are they bringing? And yet the indigenous Ghanaian who wants to set up or diversify from maybe just from importation and you want to start manufacturing something, they don't get those facilities. So the freight forwarder sees a lot of things because of their unique role they play, and they report these things, but it falls on deaf ears. So maybe it's because we are shouting too much. It's one of the reasons why they want to silence us, I would think, because otherwise we play a very crucial role. As long as this economy is import dependent, you can't do it without the freight forwarder.
Right.
If the system has changed a bit and we say we are doing even 50-50, 50% manufacturing and 50% importation, and then we are doing some import substitution, then you can probably begin to consider these things. But the timing is absolutely wrong.
Right. Let me come to Mr. Fiatri. Is there anything you want to add with respect to the critical role that freight forwarders or clearing agents or customs house agents play in our country?
What I will add is that, before a clearing agent or the customs house agent is licensed, that person is taken through rigorous training by the GRA Customs. And that training, before you are given the certificate, the training is supposed to level you up to the position of a senior revenue officer.
Okay.
So it's not as if the industry players are just people who do not understand what they are about.
Come again, go over that again.
Yeah. Yes. I said that before you are given the proficiency certificate, you go through a rigorous training.
Yes.
And that training is supposed to level you up to the position of a senior revenue officer in customs.
Okay. Right.
Because they teach you about valuation, classification, the HS code, very technical things.
Yeah.
And so when you finish that, you are not a government employee in customs uniform,
right,
but you understand what goes into customs business. So to say that, we want to make, importers become self-declarants, something that is already in place, so that there will not be the work of customs house agents. I don't know how we are going to go about it.
Yes.
Are we now going to, train importers who already have a lot of things on their heads? Importation is not just, asking a manufacturer to ship goods from one country to the other. A whole lot goes into it. And so, I'll continue to say that we have to proceed with caution.
Okay.
And again, the custom officers themselves, they go through a lot of challenges. My colleague was just mentioning that even those who are proficient, when they go off a bit and come back just after a month or two, a lot of things change.
Right.
And they have to go back to customs. And that delays the process a lot.
Absolutely.
So when this issue is brought in, the custom officers themselves are going to struggle. They are government workers. They are not going to openly say it's not in their interest, but it's going to delay the port process.
Yes.
The ease of doing business that we all talk about is going to be greatly affected by this proposal. Yes.
All right. Okay, so this is Iron Port here on Metropolitan Television. I've been told by the production team that we are running out of time, and so we can announce the phone lines for you to call in and contribute to the discussion. The number to dial is 020-552-8353, 020-552-8353. You can call in and contribute to the discussion. So let me come to you, Mr. Nana Oforiatta. I always want to say Mr. Oforiatta, that kind of thing. Yeah. Are you not being overprotective of your terrain, of your turf, of your business, of your jobs? Hence your, fierce, if I may, attitude towards this particular announcement by the government through the finance minister?
No, not at all. We are rather bringing to their attention maybe things they might have glossed over. That will come back to haunt us. So we are not being overprotective at all. We are thinking they probably haven't, done enough stakeholder engagement, or they haven't really, if I'm allowed to say, they haven't thought through exactly what the repercussions of this amendment will be, and that's why we are rather bringing it to their attention.
Right.
If anything at all, the freight forwarder is very patriotic. In the industry in which we find ourselves, anytime an exchange rate changes, most of the payments at the port changes. And I'll say to you that it is only that bit called the freight forwarder that hasn't increased, our charges, what we call professional fees and charges. In the last 6 years, you would wonder why this should be the case.
Yes. Okay. You continue from there, but let's go into the phone lines. I understand we have Mr. Kofi Kapito on the line. I don't know whether it's very own Kofi Kapito, who's the president of the Consumer Protection Agency. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon to you. How are you?
Is that our very own Mr. Kofi Kapito?
Yes, sir.
Consumer Protection, CPA. Okay, right. Please shoot,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
We are glad to have you on the show.
You know what is interesting about this whole new law? I will tell you, I'm an advocate that said that we need this self-declaration thing. Because there are some importers or individuals who don't need to go through any agent to clear a personal item. When I bring one vehicle from outside, the problem is some of this duplication of charges from the freight forwarders. They will charge you documentation, they will charge you administration, then they will charge you a processing fee. Okay, some of these hidden charges, when I buy any goods from outside, and then I say, ship it for me, most of the time, most of the charges is paid over there. I don't mind the freight forwarders assistance because if I don't want to go to the port, I can contact them for them to, clear my goods for me. But what is wrong if the freight forwarders are there and the individuals are also doing the same thing? What confusion? All we need to do is to have a template. Look, this is the only country, and I don't blame the freight forwarders, that there is an international standard of car duties, which is called the ADA book, or I've forgotten the other name that they use for it. Customs don't even accept it. When I buy a vehicle, I bought a vehicle in 2000, and the car vehicle was made in 2008. Right? I paid $8,000 for the vehicle. When I got to Ghana, the duties and everything came up to $14,000 US.
Was it an overaged vehicle?
Other jurisdictions. That's why people are clearing cars from Togo, clearing cars from Abidjan, and all that. They're straightforward. We need them, but it's also better that if I, the individual, I want to claim my own goods, the platform should be given to me. There's nothing wrong with it. And this fear that, look, if somebody is clearing something from the mines, they are special clientele. Maybe the mines will need them, but the individual Ghanaian can also go and say, I want to claim my own goods, which if they allow you, you take out the freight forwarders from those charges that they charge you, they reduce the cost to you. There's nothing wrong with it.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Capito. Kofi Capito is the CEO of the Consumer Protection Agency, CPA. I'm grateful to you for your contribution. He thinks that there's nothing wrong with this particular, announcement by government, and that it should happen. Yes, you are itching to. So let me you can take the first bite, Mr. Nana.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Capito. I mean, we all admire what you do for Mother Ghana.
Yeah.
But on this call, I would say that, in fact, there already exists, a provision for self-declaration or self-declarants.
Which you mentioned as being conflicting with this latest announcement.
And that's why we first wrote that we are seeking clarification.
Yeah, sure.
Because it already exists. The companies that bring in large quantities, like if I'm allowed to say, the supermarkets and the supermarket chains, they do their own clearing. They have employed professional, freight forwarders as part of their staff who do the clearing for them. So it already exists. And in the case of maybe if, like at the airport and things like that, when you bring personal things, like you have excess baggage and things, you come in, you fill forms like PUBD, and you virtually go through the clearing with the freight forwarder. So provision exists. This is not what the amendment is seeking to do. It's a wholesale one. And we are saying that, self-declaration already exists. But he also talks about things like being overcharged or something. And he almost dovetails into what I was already saying, that in the last 6 years, is the freight forwarding bit that has not seen any increment in the fees and charges.
Right.
Up until 2022, where we've sat with the Shippers Authority.
Yes.
Because there's a part of the law that says, we should sit down and negotiate our fees and charges.
Yes.
We just concluded, we just signed, an agreement with Shippers Authority in November, I think the latter part of November,
okay.
which we are yet to even publish because there are some few gray areas when it comes to deconsolidation and the rest. So it's not even out there. And we are still charging the same rates that would have charged since 6 years ago. So it might not be wholly true. The cost of doing business in Ghana or the cost of clearing at our ports, which we've mentioned severally to government that we are becoming the most expensive destination, at least in the sub-region. It's not because of the charges of the freight forwarder. No. Here's the case where, if you take any 3 shipping lines, they have different exchange rates. And the disparities are huge.
Yeah.
We've had the opportunity to meet the whole governor of Bank of Ghana in the president's, meeting that we had at Kempinski. Yes. And Dr. Addison says their rates they charge, the quote, are just nominal. So we can't do anything about it. The shipping line is free to quote any rate. So the cost of doing business has nothing to do with the charges imposed or the fees and charges of the freight forwarder, but the other players in the value chain, be it the shipping line. Cost of clearing or what we call the local charges for the shipping line in the last quarter has almost doubled, and that's a fact. Not for just one shipping line, but check all of them. We are paying as much as 10,000 for what we call local charges, from 4,000, just in the last quarter.
Okay. Let me take John from Y and then we'll continue. Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening. Hey, Mr. Kennedy.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Yeah, to my beso.
Abiyeso. We joke today.
All right, please go ahead.
Okay, I'm very much impressed with your hosting.
Thank you very much.
And they are my officers that you're hosting.
Yes.
I'm working with Jerry, all right.
Okay.
So I want to know my brother, my senior man, Nana Fredia. He doesn't want to come out with a clear that the politicians are warning us.
Yes.
That's why he says some people are behind what is going on. So there are some things that the politicians don't want to always. They always want. They don't know much about them. So at least with these things, they should have consulted them before they bring out those.
Right. Yeah.
Like electrical, this and that is they are bringing to the court. It's not.
Okay.
A little bit for them.
All right. Thank you very much indeed, John, who's called us all the way from the Upper West Regional Capital, WA. We have barely 2 minutes to wrap up because we are wrapping up at 2, and you can see the guy to deliver the news. He's already in the studio. So let me give you your last word on this particular issue in some 30 seconds, and then we'll take that off Nanas, and then we'll wrap up.
Right, thank you. I think I will conclude by saying that this proposal, we will urge government to stay it because we believe that it's going to be counterproductive to trade facilitation and trade in general. They should engage us more and let's discuss.
Okay.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, Nana, 30 seconds.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I'll go along the same line, really. We would ask the policy makers to engage. Yeah, because it will be counterproductive, like he's saying, so that we can, if it's about revenue generation, we've pointed out so many to them.
Yes.
We can sit down and still look at it critically and see where government can save us a lot, because there's a lot of drain.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the more important than looking at the freight forwarder.
All right.
Because we educate, we inform, and we protect as part of, aside our traditional role we play.
Okay.
We do all of that as freight forwarders.
Okay.
And it cannot be discounted.
All right. Thank you very much. Nana Fredu Ajmain Ofreyata, he is the acting president of the Customs Brokers Association of Ghana, CUBAG, and indeed Mr. Albert Derek Fiatui, who's also the executive director of the Center for International Maritime Affairs, Ghana. We've been discussing the amendment of Customs Act to accommodate self-declarants, and that was announced by the finance minister in the government's economic policy for 2023. We are grateful to you for watching. Remember, the show is brought to you by the Ghana Revenue Authority, Goel Company Limited, Serene Insurance, Ghana Link Network Services, and Meridian Port Services, MPS, empowered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. The abridged version will be aired on Ghana Television on Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. My name is Kennedy Mona. God willing, on Sunday next week, we shall bounce back with another wonderful edition of the show. Say a very good evening to you, and keep watching the rest of our programs here, and also have a super week ahead. Good afternoon.